Oh, Adam and Scott, I'm sorry. Our third guest, Rose Gold, couldn't join us. She's not feeling well.
Neither could Adam Scott. He turned us down as well.
Darn.
Adam Scott. Or Johnson Christensen.
There you go. Not nearly as good on Parks and Rec, but he was all right.
All right.
I'll be here all week.
Well, I'm sorry it's such a slow news day, you guys. Here we go.
This is Siri, the Daily Tech News Show by Tom Merritt is brought to you by all of the supporters at Patreon. If you also want to support Tom, go to patreon.com/acedetect. That is patreon.com/ACEDTECT. And thanks as always for listening to the Daily Tech News Show.
We're not going to actually start the show. I'm going to record it again because someone deleted the first headline in there. And if everyone could just Control-Z until it comes back, that'll help me read it a lot easier.
I'm not in there, so
go. Okay, here we go.
Does it say who did it?
Sure.
Oh. Did I do it?
No, it's back. We're good. Here we go.
This is Siri, the Daily Tech News Show by Tom Merritt is brought to you by all of the supporters at Patreon. If you also want to support Tom, go to patreon.com/acedetect. That is patreon.com/ACEDTECT. And thanks as always for listening to the Daily Tech News Show.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, September 9th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today to recap the Apple announcement and talk about other non-Apple news as well is Mr. Scott Johnson, founder of the Frog Pants Network. How you doing, Scott Johnson?
I'm good. I love Wednesdays, and usually our Wednesdays are kind of like the weird midweek stuff where there's not crazy big announcements or news, but today we just kind of lucked out. There's lots to talk about.
Yeah, Apple usually does a Tuesday announcement. Patrick Beja was saying he was a little jealous. He likes having the Tuesday announcements usually.
Well, good. That's my goal in life, is to make
Patrick Beja jealous. Joining us as well, Mr. Adam Christensen of the MacCast podcast, somebody who's been following Apple closely for more than a decade. How's it going, Adam?
More than a decade, yeah. It's going great. Exciting day.
Can we say decades? You've been following them for decades?
Yeah, probably. If we're honest, I've only been doing it professionally for over a decade.
But you were following them before that, so that's fair.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well,
Always
let's get into the headlines, and then we'll get back to talking more detailed about Apple. But we're going to spend a chunk of the episode discussing that. So if you need a quick summary, here we go. New iPhones. Apple has added Force Touch, calling it 3D Touch on the phone for some reason. A trigger phrase involving the words Siri and Hey in reverse order can activate Siri anytime now, not just when it's plugged in. A new 12-megapixel camera is there. It can record 4K video. The iPhone 6S and 6S Plus will come in silver, gold, space gray, and rose gold. Both come in 1664 and 128 gig versions. The 6S ranges from $199 to $399, and the 6S Plus from $299 to $499 on a 2-year contract. Apple announced their own upgrade program, though. For $32 a month, you can start getting a new iPhone every year. Pre-orders for the 6S and 6S Plus start Saturday, September 12th, and ship September 25th. iOS 9 arrives on Wednesday, September 16th.
And in store on the 25th as well, I would assume from that, right? Shipping
that ships both to orders and stores. You're right. A good point.
Makes sense to me. Well, the one I'm probably the most excited about, and I have my own reasons for it, and I'll talk to Adam about it later in more detail, but the 12.9-inch iPad Pro was announced and revealed finally. Some of those rumors were true. It has a 64-bit A9X chip, 10 hours of battery life, 4 speakers, which I thought was really interesting, a 6.9 millimeter thick casing on this thing, weighs 1.57 pounds, has an 8-megapixel camera, 802.11ac with MIMO, which is nice. It comes out in November in 32 gig and 128 gig models. You can get that 128 gigabyte plus LTE version for $800, $950, and $1,080 respectively. A new stylus called Apple Pencil costs $99, and a keyboard case for another $169. It's also a new iPad Mini called the iPad Mini 4, and the iPad Air 2 has those internals for $399. And it's important to note the iPad Mini 2 is now the entry-level mini / entry level iPad at this point.
Yeah, they just kind of tacked that on at the end of the announcement, like, oh, by the way, while we're showing prices, there's a new iPad Air Mini 4. It's got the iPad Air 2 internals, but it's smaller, and the iPad Mini 2 is now the basic one.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, a new Apple TV has a remote with a touchpad and a microphone button so you can talk to Siri, so you can do gesture and voice controls on the remote. Features universal search across Apple services and select apps. An app store brings new apps like games and shopping. A 32-gigabyte version for $149 and a 64-gigabyte for $199 arrive in October.
They're swinging that thing around like a Wiimote. It's pretty funny to watch.
It had a little bit of motion control in it, too, when they were demoing one of the games, but they didn't show that when demoing the interface, did they?
Yeah, and they didn't really talk too much to it other than kind of show it, so I'm very curious how much of a role that even plays. Finally, Apple Watch has a new rose gold anodized, aluminum version starting at $349 shipping today, and new watch bands from Hermes coming in October. Am I saying that right? It's not
Hermes.
It's Hermes. You know what it is? It's like a double wrapped thing on your arm. And
Hermes is the one coming from the Futurama guy.
Okay, now that is a watch band I'd buy.
Me too.
Watch OS 2 comes out September 16th, so right around the corner.
Yeah. So we're going to talk at length about these, but Adam Christensen, if you could sum it up in one sentence, what is your reaction to today's Apple's announcements?
Sorry, kids, Christmas is canceled this year. Dad's getting new Apple stuff.
I thought you were saying Christmas is canceled. You had me on a hook because Dad's spending all the money. All right, turn that one around.
Yeah.
Ars Technica reports Samsung has begun mass production of 12 gigabit LPDDR4 DRAM dies for mobile devices fabricated on its 20 nanometer manufacturing process. The 50% greater density allows for 4 12 gigabit dies in a single DRAM package. They buried the lead here for you folks who don't follow the intricacies of RAM. This means mobile devices with 6 gigabytes of RAM inside. For example, the 6S has a gigabyte of RAM. So there you go. Samsung says the new dies are 30% faster, too.
Well, and most phones we were talking earlier, you can get like a 3 gigabyte phone someplace from some manufacturer, but it's kind of rare to see anything bigger than that. This may spell a big sea change for how much RAM your phones get.
Sure. I mean, it's more RAM than we could probably use in a phone right now, but I have never seen a situation where we didn't figure out how to use more RAM somehow eventually.
It always happens, Tom. When I had 4 megabytes in my 386DX, I remember somebody saying, oh, you'll never need more than that. And it's the dumbest thing to say about RAM ever. So we're not going to say it today either.
64K ought to be enough for anybody.
Yeah, it sure should. Yeah. GeekWire noted that both models of the Amazon Fire phone are now listed as currently unavailable on Amazon. Amazon told GeekWire that the company sold out of its inventory in the U.S. at the end of August. Thanks to Captain Kipper for that tip. I don't think this means. Some have suggested it means they're getting rid of that stock, taking it off, saying there's no stock, and they're going to reintroduce a new phone to take its place. But no other rumors about that have happened. So I think they're just kind of quietly putting that thing to bed.
Yeah, normally when they get rid of something in stock, it's because they've got a new model coming. But those reports that they had laid off the people working on the Fire phone sort of indicate otherwise. What do you think, Adam?
Sorry, I got distracted.
That perfectly, I think that perfectly sums up most public reaction to the Fire phone. To be honest,
I was get in here and figure out if I was supposed to jump in at this point because I had a comment on the last thing, but I didn't make it. So,
what's your comment on RAM? Frankly, the RAM story is more interesting to me.
So on RAM, I'm not a huge Android person, but it's my understanding when you sort of look at these things, Android phones kind of need extra RAM. Like they're a little more resource intensive on this stuff, right?
Well, they do more things in the background, right? Because they actually have closer to real multitasking, which eats up RAM.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's the same argument they've made for years about OS 10 as opposed to Windows needing more RAM to run better. I think there's some of those reasons. The main thing is that regardless of how efficiently your device handles RAM, more RAM means more capability down the road. So I don't see how anybody loses from this innovation and wherever it goes next.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting to see. I mean, Apple being so far behind, but in a lot of testing and things like that, when they look at these things, the iPhone's still outperforming with less RAM. So, Yeah.
Reuters reports Alibaba said Tuesday it expected Q2 transactions to be lower than previously expected due to the slowing Chinese economy. Alibaba head of investor relations Jane Penner said consumers will still spend, but the company is seeing a negative impact of the magnitude of spending. Alibaba reported gross merchandise volume grew 34% in Q2, but that is their slowest growth in 3 years.
Instagram has opened its advertising platform to any company in 30 countries as a self-serve option, is what they're calling it. Further expansion is planned for September 30th. Instagram ads use Facebook data for targeting and charge a high CPM of $6.70. That's a lot. Users are more than 2.5 times likely to click on an Instagram ad than ads on other social media platforms. I had heard that and wondered why, and I've noticed when they're in my feed that I know when there is an ad. Like they never pop up and me get confused to think, oh, did Tom post this and click on it by accident or something? So I don't think they're getting more of those click-throughs because they're fooling anybody. I don't think that's even their intent. I think they're clearly demarcated as ads. I just think that's an audience that's more engaged and perhaps maybe it just speaks to how well they're using this Facebook data and it's actually working. I don't know, but it works pretty good.
My concern as an Instagram user is that when they had a limited number of highly vetted advertisers, they could make sure that these were high-quality pictures, that they fit in the stream really nicely, so that even though you knew it was an advertisement, and like you, I've never been fooled by one. I've always looked at them and been like, oh, okay, that's clearly an ad. They didn't make me angry. They didn't make me think, what the, oh, it's so ugly, it's ruined my stream. When you open it up to what's called self-service, how do you assure that kind of quality in your advertising?
Yeah, then things get real weird. I completely agree. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But if it starts to be flashing red and blue, horrible, click here now to get a better deal on the loan or something, me and Instagram might have some words.
Punch the monkey!
Yeah, they're going to be, there's going to be people trying to really game that. So they're going to have a good process for sort of parsing through that. I mean, we see it with Google, insert ads on the websites that I manage and stuff like that, that we're not supposed to have pop-up videos or autoplay videos, and those things slip in there. And once you open it up to everybody, you're going to have people that are trying to work their way even around any guidelines they might have in place and slip stuff in, and stuff will slip in.
I like phrases that are simple and succinct. There's a 3-letter term that Tom just used, and it is punch the monkey. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about what you're afraid of here, then you're listening to the wrong show, because that terrifies me now that
TiVo is also terrifying in that they're suing Samsung, the Eastern District of Texas, for infringement of 4 patents regarding multimedia time warping and trick play functionality, essentially the ability to pause, play, rewind, and fast-forward live video. Ars Technica notes that in addition to Samsung-made DVRs, TiVo cites several Samsung Galaxy phones and tablets as infringing because the devices do, quote, simultaneous storage and playback of movies, videos, television shows, and other multimedia content.
That's not just Samsung, though, right? Doesn't that spread around?
Anybody who does like any kind of live broadcast that gives you DVR functionality, it sounds like TiVo is willing to go after them.
Wow. I wonder if that applies. Well, I'm sure it probably doesn't, but it reminds me of, Sony does this with the Vita and the PlayStation. Apple on stage today talked about doing this with games on iOS, and then later on the Apple TV, having your game progress state sort of saved and then immediately be able to pick it up at home or vice versa. I doubt that's the same thing, but whenever someone starts talking about an innovation like this, that's when you brace for patent lawsuits, sometimes from trolls, sometimes from legit companies who have a vested interest, like maybe TiVo does. I don't know.
Now, the Eastern District is very famous as being friendly to patent lawsuits, to people who bring patent lawsuits. Samsung has provided a skating rink in Marshall, Texas, so that's going to help them out in this case. I'm not sure what amenities TiVo has provided to the small town of Marshall.
Twitter, well, we know it just makes the sound boop, boop every time it does. Twitter
they can undo. TiVo provided the ability to undo plays for the local high school football team. That would win the day for them right there.
I like that. Skip past the principal's comments. Twitter has switched from separate iPad and iPhone apps to unified design and development using responsive web design to handle different screen sizes. I think this is much overdue. Twitter's adaptive UI takes advantage of the responsiveness framework added to iOS 8. Twitter says the change will allow us to bring new features faster, and I think that's good. I don't like how spread out the Twitter ecosystem of apps are. I want them all to, at the very least, they may look different at different UIs in terms of how you get to them, but how I quote tweets, retweet, they all seem to want to do something different. It would be nice to see that stuff smooth out.
My concern here would be performance. So depending upon how they're implementing it, sounds like they're using this new API. I'm not super familiar with it, but I am in an iOS developer group, and we always talk about performance of sort of web apps or apps that are running in a web view inside a native wrapper and things like that. And performance can always be a concern. I'm sure Twitter's the type of company who would have thought about this up front, but I'd like to see how this works. I like the idea. And being a web developer, I love that they're using responsive design to kind of make it happen. But compared to a native app, I'd be curious to see how the performance is.
Squash Tacos shared this one in our subreddit. It's a Mashable opinion piece from Raymond Wong, saying he thinks journalists at the Xperia Z5 Premium event in IFA Berlin got taken. He said he was among them who initially mistook the Xperia Z5 regular model with a 1080p screen for the Z5 Premium model, which has a 4K screen. He argues that specs like 4K are therefore meaningless on phones in the real world and more of a marketing gimmick than a benefit to users because nobody noticed. Raymond plans to do a side-by-side comparison between the Z5 and Z5 Premium to see if people can tell the difference once they both come out.
I agree with him. You totally can't. TM204 sent us the story, and Gadget reports that Intel will no longer be the sponsor of the Science Talent Search after 2017. Oh. STS is a research-based science competition to encourage high school students to study science through cash prizes and meetings with experts. Sounds pretty cool. Intel has sponsored the event ever since 1998, spending $6 million a year. Intel did not give a reason for pulling out, nor respond to any requests for new information. So we don't know why they're out, but they're out.
Well, it's hard to say with budget things like that, but hopefully somebody can step in and fill in the gap.
Apple should jump in there.
Right? They got $6 million without thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, they're paying
like a nickel.
They pay a Beats DJ that just for like lunch expenses. They should just do it.
They paid Zane Lowe to just record the "Please turn off your phone" announcement before the
that was totally press conference. Wasn't it? I kept thinking when he did that must mean that happened during the Beats broadcast, but they didn't do that, right? Like
I doubt it. No. I also thought it was interesting. Somebody else pointed this out on the Verge live blog that they asked people to mute their phones because getting people to turn off their phones just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Hey, thanks to folks who submit stories like TM204, Squash Tacos, and Captain Kipper. We look through our subreddit at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com every day to help put together the lineup. So the more of you that participate, the more helpful it is. Get in there and do some voting or submitting some stories at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Where do we start, ladies and gentlemen? We've got new iPhone 6S's, which, frankly, I found a little underwhelming. We've got an iPad Pro, which the only thing I'm disappointed about is they didn't also come out with a new 10-inch version. So now I've got to decide if I really want a 13-inch iPad. We've got a new Apple TV, which has some interesting functionality. And we kind of have new watch stuff-ish. Adam, you're the host of MacCast. Which one of these do you want to start with?
I don't know. Do we want to do it in Apple's order or in the order it should have been in? Because I would have.
Let's do it in the order you think it should have been in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, let's start with the iPhones then, because I'm with you. I mean, I was a bit underwhelmed by the iPhone announcement. Although there's a lot of great stuff in there, and I'm still going to upgrade, so I'm still excited about it. But a lot of it was already leaked, kind of going in. We knew a lot of what was going to be announced, and it turned out to be pretty much true and right on board. I mean, it's not a huge design change. You've got the new rose gold color. Scott, you want to chime in on?
Well, it's not a color. It's stupid. It's a terrible name. I understand. I understand how marketing works, and space gray technically isn't a color either. But right. I was okay with that one because that's one where you could say, well, kind of the gray space. You could make something up. But rose gold is a ridiculous name for a color. And all those college courses I took in art that dealt with color, entire units spent on color, months at a time. Not one did one color wheel ever come up with the name rose.
And so my biggest beef on the iPhone announcement is the whole marketing team. So the rose gold thing, fine, but the renaming Force Touch as 3D Touch, I don't understand what's going on there. I was like screaming at my computer screen. It's like now it's just another thing that I'm going to mess up on the show because I got to remember when I'm talking about the iPad or when I'm talking about the Apple Watch, it's called Force Touch, and when I'm talking about the iPhone, it's 3D Touch. But it's exactly, as near as I can tell, it's exactly the same technology. I don't see the difference.
Well, maybe there was. Tom said earlier, made a joke about maybe there was some Star Wars name trademark thing, but I actually think there may be some truth to the idea that maybe that name can't be bandied about. Maybe they had to come up with something short term to call it whatever, because it doesn't make any other sense to me. Because otherwise, it makes no marketing sense to have two names for essentially the same technology when you could bridge the two lines and have people be excited about both because they both have this feature you love.
Right. So are they going to change it on the watch and the MacBook then as well? Because those both have Force Touch. So I don't know. That part was that got weird to me. The other thing, just a quick comment on Force Touch. I like the functionality that's built into the OS that it sort of enables, where I can kind of have these spotlight views of documents where I can tap on something and not have to open the whole app. That's going to make things a lot more efficient. I can tap on maybe an app icon and get right to the section of the app immediately that I want to get to. That stuff's all really cool, but I was talking with the guys. I was on the British Tech Network Mac Show live thing, and we were watching that go by, and Ewan Rankin over there pointed out this could be done without extra hardware. So I'm curious to actually try this feature, because it's built into the hardware. It's built into the display. You've got the Taptic engine under there, which I guess will give you some sort of touch feedback, but a lot of it, when I'm looking at the UI, it seems like you could have done it in software, where I could just press and hold on the icon, and it could pop up that. So I'm not sure where the Force element needs to come into play.
Well, yeah, we already have long press, right? So this is going to have to be different than long press. And they seem to be trying to imply that with Force Touch, it's just basically harder does this, less does this. But with 3D Touch, there's the mini tap and the full tap, or they were calling it peek and pop. Most of the examples they gave were for peek, though, so I'm not even sure what pop is good for.
Well, also they also, when they would show them, clicking on something lightly to look at it, the big difference, I guess, would be this, Adam. If you're going to do it the software way, which is you just hold it for a period of time and then eventually it quote unquote pops or comes out of itself, that seems like a workable thing to do in software, but that's all a time-based thing. This seems to give you the ability to say, well, I want to keep it in this sort of preview mode for a lot longer time ago. Nope, this is the one I want. Click and
or
then
press harder.
Yeah, so I think that's the distinction. I don't think there was another use. Yeah.
And then that is the same as Force Touch, and the 3D Touch naming thing is crazy. And I will point out that Craig Federighi during the event slipped and said Force Touch, and then corrected himself back to the 3D Touch.
Yeah.
I also was not taken by the live photos. It was built up to be really cool to me because friends of mine, for instance, Sarah Lane on Instagram, will do these great slow-mo pictures where you can't tell it's not a photo, and then it'll just slowly start playing like maybe it's a swishing wine in a glass in slow-mo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a Harry Potter thing. That's what I thought live photos were going to be, where, you Force Touch, and then it just comes alive. But it had this big blurring effect, which totally ruined it.
Yeah, some of that was weird to see. Also, just on the overall sense, it seems like everyone's always a little disappointed with the S rollout.
Yeah. And this time we got Force Touch. Last time we got Touch ID. The time before that we got Siri. There's always that one thing, and it's always underwhelming to those of us who don't want to have to pay for a new phone.
Yeah, better cameras, great. Better, a few other tweaks here and there, that's all great. But this one little thing didn't strike me as this groundbreaking thing. I'm also going to upgrade because I'm weird like Adam, and I'm excited about it, just like I have been for all the S remakes. Because the S's end up just being kind of if you liked the S, or if you liked the one coming previously, this is kind of a perfected version of that, and then the next rollout is some funky new whatever. But I still say it's always been this way. It just gets less and less. We can iterate and iterate, but we're going to innovate and innovate less with the form factor. It's just the way it is, so it's going to be easy to feel underwhelmed.
You do get the A9 processor, so you get a significant bump up in processor, and you already mentioned the camera stuff. There's a newer Touch ID, so if that actually really works, I don't know about you guys, but I love Apple Pay, and I use it as frequently as I can. So anything that can help me unlock the phone faster or use that feature faster, they say it's 2 times faster. If that really is accurate, that's going to be a convenience. It's not a huge leap forward. Again, this is the S series. I'm trying to think of anything else that's in there that I was sort of excited about. A9.
Well, I have to say, I usually skip the S versions of iPhone, and I was actually leaning towards buying one this time because my mom has a Verizon phone. I have an unlocked phone that could work on Verizon or T-Mobile, and I kind of wanted to move us to T-Mobile, but I don't know if I'm going to bother at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Well,
There's just
Related-
not anything compelling in here.
Ron,
Although,
Rose
what do
gold.
you guys make of that upgrade program? Are you going to do that where you buy your phone directly from Apple, you pick the carrier, and you can change it because it's unlocked any year you want for $32 a month?
I would rather do that, though. I'm going to say no to, but I would rather do that if my options are the AT&T or Verizon monthly equivalent to this. I would rather do the Apple one. And
Oh,
the reason-
really?
Yeah, I don't even really have a good reason why.
Okay. Well, I might talk you out of it.
All right.
And we don't know details, so I'm speculating at this point because Apple didn't say. To me, this seems like an Apple phone leasing program.
It is.
So
Yeah, there
it's-
was something about you pay off the phone over 2 years, but you can upgrade every 1 year. So I think you just keep extending your payoff time.
Well, or is it you just turn the phone back into Apple and they have a reselling program just like Gazelle or anybody else? They're just going to take it and they're going to resell it and they'll get their profit on the back end. That's my guess, is that, even you can go to Apple now and give them back your phone that's paid off and they'll give you cash for it. They'll make you an offer for it. In my opinion, I think what's going to happen is you're going to pay the $30. You go in to get your new phone. They take your old one. They don't give you any money for it, and you keep paying $32.
Yeah.
Unless
you wait until it's paid off, then I think you'll probably be able to keep it.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you? That's the kind of detail I want to know. Is this a perpetual? I'm going to just rent my phone from Apple in perpetuity sort of situation. Unlike the AT&T Next plan, where like my iPhone 6 Plus is paid off. I'm selling it to a buddy of mine. I'm basically almost covering the cost of my new phone.
Now the upsell here is that you
Or the buy-in for the new phone, obviously.
you get Apple Care on top of it, which you would otherwise have to pay for.
That I did like. I did like the fact that they have Apple Care Plus on that. But again, I think that goes back to the fact that you're leasing this thing from Apple. They need to have the value in it when you bring it back. So if it's all busted and broken, that's not going to really work for them as well, I don't think.
All right, so where do we go next? Apple TV or iPad Pro?
Apple TV.
Oh, really? So you think Apple TV is the more interesting next one?
No. I'm saying you leave the best for last. So I think iPad Pro
I
is the
got
thing
you.
that Apple should have
Obviously,
finished with.
Apple Watch at the end. I hear you. Kidding.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about it. You can throw Apple Watch in wherever. That's.
Let's throw an Apple
I
Watch
should've
now,
done
real
that.
quick, because I don't
Yeah,
have much
let's
to
do it.
say other than like bringing an anodized aluminum version, and whether it's gold or rose gold, to the $350 price point, the sport price, is a smart move.
Yeah, I agree.
I still don't. I mean, I was really hoping for something today that would push me over the edge because I'm, of the three of us, the one that hasn't tried the watch. Still don't feel a compelling reason, and I wish I did because I really want to be that guy.
Well, the customer satisfaction is 97%, Scott. So apparently, I am the 3%.
You are the 3%, and you like yours, Adam, right? You've been happy.
I do. Yeah, I do.
And are the changes coming in the OS and all that stuff? That's, as far as you're concerned, are we on track for what you expected out of that device and its immediate future?
Yeah, I mean, apps are the big Achilles heel, in my opinion, of the watch right now. I mean, I don't use any third-party apps because they're so dang slow to load. And I think developers haven't figured out all the functionality either. The thing on the watch is it's really an accessory. I mean, you have to think of it as an iPhone accessory, and it's a very expensive one. So I'm happy with it because I'm getting out of it what I sort of expected of it, and I knew I was going to be paying a lot of money for this thing that, allows me to look at my notifications, check the time. I use a lot of the Siri features for like setting timers and things like that. It's really convenient when I'm, moving around the house and I need to remember to not overfill the pool. Sorts of things. But these are minor sort of enhancements to you not having to take my phone out of my pocket.
What's interesting is I had originally put off buying one. My justification was that I would normally kind of just do this because I like the ecosystem, I like their products, and I thought, well, no matter what, it'll be good at whatever it's supposed to do. But I put it off saying, instead I'm going to use that $400 or so toward a HTC Vive, a Valve Steam VR Vive, at the end of the year, because that's when those are supposed to be out in November. And now we're being told those have been pushed, or at least limited quantities only. So now I'm left with this feeling of, oh no, what do I do? What I'll probably do is just roll that money that I had budgeted for that into this iPad Pro, because I have other reasons for doing that more. But that's where I've been with this watch, and it's really the first time in a long time where the product looks great. Everyone I talk to either loves it, or in Tom's 3% case was like, give it or take it or whatever. But I'm not hearing anybody who hates the watch. They've all, found something to like about it. it's the first one where I've just been like, I don't know, man. And I'm not excited about anybody's smartwatch. I don't want a Pebble. I don't want anything. So anyway, it's just interesting to see them, the way that they're adding things to it, going with anodized aluminum in new colors. I mean, clearly they probably have the data to know that that's something that people want, certainly on the store level. So yeah, I mean, the watch still, it remains this thing I want to be more excited about, Tom, and
yeah, I'm not. This didn't change anything with me. I think the most interesting thing about this is we didn't see a hardware upgrade, and that's good because people were worried. If they have a new watch every year, am I going to feel horrible buying this watch that I'm going to be wearing for a long time? I wonder what the hardware upgrade cycle will be for the watch. It's obviously going to be different.
Yeah. One thing I don't think a lot of people are talking about with this event that I really see underlying, especially this color stuff, is Apple focusing more on the whole fashion aspect across the entire line. I think it is going to be a big deal for some people that they have their MacBook and their iPhone and their Apple Watch and their stand and everything perfectly matched, and color matched. I've got rose gold of everything and they all match. That is a thing. Some people really care about that, and I think
part of me wants to laugh at you and say, that's so lame. Who would care? But then I'm not being honest, because part of me wants all this stuff in space gray right now. It's just that's the one I want. I just happen to not want rose gold. I actually think it's a really smart move for them. They differentiate themselves by being focused in that way. The watch really lets them do that, and their competitors aren't doing that so much. It's still kind of a gearhead sort of thing, and this is them saying, well, it's that, but it's also, it's for the Kardashians. It's for the rich and famous. It's for the whoever. And
well, that's a lot more to say about the Apple Watch than I ever expected any of us would have.
Well, and last little comment, the sport bands, the number of colors on the sports band is me the same thing. You're going to have people who have an Apple Watch, and they're going to get every color sports band so they can have a different color every day of the week or what have you.
It's very Apple to offer millions of choices. Wait, what?
No, it's
weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Let's talk about the device you can only get in black, Apple TV. And to me, this is a Fire TV except with iTunes instead of the Amazon store. It's a little bit more expensive too. It's at $149 for a 32 gigabyte version, so you get more storage. $199 for 64 gigabyte. It has voice search, just like the Fire TV. It's got the ability to add apps from an app store, just like the Fire TV. It has games, just like the Fire TV. The only thing it adds is the gesture control on that touchpad on the remote, which is kind of nifty. It looked like it would work well. If it does, I think that's nice. I don't know how much better its universal search is going to be than Amazon's or Roku's. Roku has universal search as well. So to me, it's all about the implementation here and whether the fact that Apple has built up a big developer community makes their app store better than the Roku or the Amazon app stores.
Yeah, the way I came away from it was they're not feature for feature. They're not really offering anything crazily new other than that motion control, and some of that stuff is a little bit neat and different. But the core experience, the way they win with that is, does it work as well as they showed it up there? And some of that like deeper search stuff with the movies, that looked pretty cool. Is it fully third-party universal search? There's a few questions that seemed a little bit limp on that.
Oh, no, it's only certain apps. Right now, they can search across iTunes, Netflix, Hulu, HBO, and Showtime, and they'll be adding apps later.
It sounds like... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it sounds like there's a developer API, so it would just be a matter of the developers building that into their app so that the metadata is probably exposed.
So the question is, does that stuff work better? And is it more stable? My Fire TV has to be unplugged and plugged in about 4 times a week. And I like the device otherwise, but I have problems with it. Yeah, I get hitching and all kinds of weird stuff. I reboot it, it's fine for a few days, and then it does it again. And then I have 2 that do that. I have 2, because I remember they had that 2-for-1 deal or whatever.
Yeah.
Do the exact same thing. So it seems like if they could just deliver on all that, deep voice search, the responsiveness, the UI, the overlay stuff, that all seemed really cool to me. It's just about whether or not that stuff feels really fresh, clean, snappy, fast, efficient.
I'll tell you, right on that point, the one thing that'll win me over to this over all the other platforms is if that fast-forward rewind scrub that they showed on multi-touch really works well.
Yeah.
Because fast-forwarding and rewinding right now is a pain on these devices. And the idea, I think the killer thing they showed was telling Siri, what did she just say, and having it skip back 15 seconds so you could hear it. That was, if that works as well as it did in the demo, which I kind of doubt, to be honest, that could be the one thing that wins me over for sure.
I have a question for you about the Fire with apps. So with the Fire TV on apps, one thing that Apple did announce was that they are going to let developers create universal apps that will go iPad, iPhone, and Apple TV. So that could mean for the developers who opt to give that to their customers that you're not having to rebuy a new app for the Apple TV or a game. So that could be a big deal.
What it means.
Yeah, when you buy a Fire tablet app, it does not show up on your Fire TV. No.
No,
Yeah.
and when they say universal, I mean, unless they say something otherwise, this has to mean that I can get it across the entire ecosystem and not have to pay for it 2 times at the least, 3 at the most. And if this is the other place that they could win this fight, or they could make a big dent in this fight. I'm not sure anyone's going to win it, and I like that there's all this competition. But their experience with the App Store has proven one thing that it's very hard to deny. Apple nailed that. The App Store is the single most successful ecosystem of its kind for mobile. If they can translate that experience to the TV and have it kind of let you take all your stuff you've already played, in theory, you may be able to get onto this thing if their universal apps and the updates come out. You should be able to download a lot of the stuff you already had. Right. And so if you have that base already, these hundreds of thousands of apps, thousands of which you might actually like, that's a huge up. That's a giant uptick. And compared to
I think it's a big ask, because I remember Google saying, we've got an app store. It's an Android app store. And very few things came across to the Google TV from that Android app store.
That's absolutely true. So that's what I'm saying. If they go that way, we're in trouble. If they decide to truly make that stuff ubiquitous the way they did with the iPad, which was really smart, or iPods that your kids have, and I can buy a game, and now Nick has it, and Taylor has it, and Mom has it, whatever, and they can do this to the TV at the same time, that's a huge, huge deal. That's a big win for them. But you're right, they may not do that. I don't know.
They could pull it off too, especially though if with knowing the developer APIs and things like that. Apple's been talking about they have a system, and as long as developers use that to build their apps in the way where it'll scale, you can almost probably very easily get a version up on the Apple TV and then come back later and optimize it.
Sure.
So the best games are going to be apps are going to be optimized obviously for each screen, but even if they're just using the dynamic scaling, I forget what the term Apple has for it, but if you've built your app in that way, that's what enables the split screen stuff, all of that stuff. If you built your app in that way, it should translate pretty easily. So it's probably a pretty easy transition for developers to get their app onto the Apple TV. But we'll have to take a deeper look at the APIs, or the APIs. Sorry.
Speaking of split screen, that's something you can do with an iPad Pro, because when you turn it on its side, it's the same. The width is the same as the height of the iPad Air. You can have 2 iPad Airs next to each other. The iPad Pro, or as I call it, the Microsoft Surface for people who like to use Office on iOS instead.
I want to give it a third name. Can I give her a second name?
Sure.
My name would be, if they can do it right, and I need to make sure first, I guess, before I plunk down the money, but artists are looking for a artist-friendly portable solution. I know that the Surface Pro does this. I tried a 3 for a while. I didn't like it. It was hitchy and weird. 2 was better. For whatever reason, the Surface 2 was better. It was fine, and I like running full apps like Photoshop, things like that. But if this can look as good as they were making that artwork look on screen, as an artist who does a lot of digital artwork on a big Wacom Cintiq in the office and otherwise has sketchbooks in the field, this is a huge thing for me, and it makes sense.
So this Apple Pencil looks to you much better than the third-party styluses that you could get, or styli that you could get before now.
Without a question. They are essentially giving you, for the first time for real, you're getting pressure sensitivity. And they showed exactly how the pen does that. And the pen is where the pressure sensitivity matters. It's the same with these Wacom devices. I don't know what the levels of sensitivity are, because they didn't say on stage, or if they missed it.
Didn't Paper have a companion stylus that would do some kind of pressure sensitivity, though?
Yeah, and there's also a Wacom one that does it, but it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Adam? They're all right.
Yeah, they're okay. The Paper one even kind of has the side thing, where you can kind of, do fill-ins and stuff like that, but it's not. It's good, but it's not great. Yeah. And so this is a great stylus. I think really the key, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, the biggest problem with styluses right now is what they were talking about on screen, the latency. Mm-hmm. That, you can get easily, if you're drawing especially quickly or trying to do a sketch, you can easily get way ahead of your line, and it's so off-putting when you're trying to...
Even on the fastest device, it's extremely frustrating, and that was that is a huge part of this for me. The other part is simply form factor. We need something big enough to make sense in a portable way. And this is the right size. Now, there are competing devices out there. Wacom has their own Android-based tablet. There are other tablets out there that tout being kind of an artist tablet. All of them, to some degree or another, have strengths and weaknesses. I'm looking for something that will really be strong in this place. I really hope this is it because I like how thin it is. I'm in the ecosystem as it is already, so we got a lot of app opportunities. And even if this stylus is only good, not great, it seems like, again, API and some, the better latency is going to prompt other third parties to make even better styluses, including Wacom and others that you may already trust, and we'll get even better hardware for that. So I am genuinely jazzed about that device. So for me, I'm getting the big Duke, so I want to get a 6S, or 6 Plus S, or 6S Plus, rather. That'll basically replace any need for a smaller tablet for me. You get the big Pro, that takes care of what I want it for, plus other tablet needs. I'm good. I'm good for the year.
But if you get the top-end iPad Pro for $1,079, then you get a pencil for $99. You're talking MacBook Air prices at that point.
You're $1,300.
You are, but then you're not See, I would look at it differently because when I bought, for example, the Cintiq 22 HD was $2,000. I can buy a lot of computer for $2,000, and this really just, if you want to look at it this way, it's just a 22-inch display with that you can draw on. But because it's so good at what it does, it's absolutely worth that from a business perspective for me. And that is how I'm looking at this. If this was just a casual buy, I'm not sure I'd be interested. The comic book thing is kind of a big deal because now you're getting like 1-to-1 resolution on comic book detail. That's pretty cool. But aside from kind of that media consumption stuff that they've always been sort of good at, if this can be a real tool for me in this way, it will more than justify that cost. Plus, I'd probably just go the mid-range anyway for what I would use it for. I don't need the high.
I'm hoping with the keyboard, for me, because I don't do a lot of drawing and stuff like that, for me, I'm looking at this as a potential way to not get a MacBook or another MacBook Air. I'm happy right now with my MacBook Pro, 15 inches, a 2011, but I'd like something that I can actually take with me. I do take my iPad sometimes with me, just my standard one, and typing on the screen is not always great. So to have something that's light and portable, still an iPad, I can kind of do the split screen thing. It has some appeal to me because I have to look at weight-wise. I think it's lighter. I'm assuming it's lighter than the MacBook.
Well, it's lighter than the original iPad, so I don't know how that.
Well, it's 1.57 pounds.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't remember what the spec on the MacBook is. The MacBook's pretty darn light.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be definitely lighter than that because I have the same year MacBook Pro. You have a Pro, right?
Yeah.
MacBook Air 13-inch weighs 2.96 pounds, so yeah, it's lighter.
Yeah, I was saying versus buying like a MacBook or a MacBook Air. So this could be my portable solution because Tom's right. I mean, by the time you add the keyboard and the pencil, you're looking at the same price point. So it really comes down to how much portability do you need and which operating system do you want to live in. And for me, for most of the stuff that I can do on the road, which is taking notes for the show and doing research and doing emails and all those sorts of things, an iPad is perfect for that. I don't need a full MacBook. And so, it's weird because I went into this not caring at all about the iPad Pro, and I knew Apple was going to show me some stuff that I was going to be excited about. And I think it's more for me about the accessories and the add-on stuff that they added. I don't know that having a large screen iPad is really something that I'm looking for, but you throw the keyboard on there and suddenly it's an iPad that can optionally function as a really portable laptop for me.
And there are people screaming at this show right now saying, well, then just get a Surface Pro, everybody. That's the bomb in this market. And here's the truth of the matter. I'm this close to going Surface Pro if this doesn't pan out. If this thing is just nothing more than like fancy dressing on an existing iPad, then probably going to have to go the Surface Pro as a result because it's that kind of decision for me. But this really is an interesting, I think, make it or break it moment for Apple where they can say, look, here is a transitional device, the device that lets you be businessy and do worky kind of things on it, but also the casual thing that you get with an iPad normally, so that you don't have to go full notebook anymore. And if they nail that little weird space in the middle, that's a big deal. Hard to do.
Well, like most of these things, you can't really compare them exactly. The Surface Pro 3 is an inch smaller. It's a couple tenths of a pound heavier, but it also runs full Windows 10. And if that's your thing, if you're like, I want to have Windows 10 desktop apps, then yeah, that's the thing you should get. Or if you want, I want OS 10 desktop apps, then you're going to have to get a MacBook Air. It just kind of depends on the person. But Apple has made a product that fits a particular person. And I think people overemphasize how significant it was that Microsoft got up there and demoed. It's less significant for Apple. It's more significant that Microsoft is really playing in all fields now. They don't want to try to hoard all their customers within Microsoft. They're willing to go out and get customers wherever they are, even if that's on an iPad.
You mean like they used to, right?
Right.
They sell software.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be. It used to be if you see Microsoft show up at an Apple event, it was a giant screen of Bill Gates sort of looking down on Steve
Well, yeah,
Jobs.
if you're thinking of Pirates of Silicon Valley, exactly.
No, yeah, and I'm just more commenting on, like, I'm glad that Microsoft has seen the light, and yeah, they can do their own hardware, and that's great and stuff like that. But really, their core business is selling software, and selling software to as many people on as many platforms as they possibly can, getting everybody to use Office, all this stuff. And it's nice because they're now back to making really good apps on the Mac and whatever platform, Windows, whatever platform you want to be on. I think where they should be.
Apple made a big deal about this when they introduced Microsoft, right? They said who was the guy they were introducing? Königsberg? What was his name? I'm sorry, Königsbauer. They said Microsoft's great at productivity. And I think Microsoft's perfectly comfortable being billed as that. They're like, yeah, we're the productivity service people. We have Azure, we have Office 360. We are the folks who deliver services, whether it's software as a service or storage or anything else. That's what they want to be. Apple, admittedly, is not good at cloud services at this point. So I think they're willing to let Microsoft take that part for now. They probably won't be forever.
Especially in enterprise. I mean, the iPad Pro is also, they're going to sell a ton of these things in enterprise.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
And it's key to be able to have Microsoft running, to have AutoCAD running. I mean, that was an underlying theme in here, was showing these high-level professional pieces of software running on the iPad Pro.
Yeah, so I like the iPad Pro for how many markets it's sort of appealing to. You can see architects in the field having these out there. You see artists having them out there. Then you see them in meetings, with guys taking notes, and so I think it's going to be a pretty big boost to iPad.
If those 4 speakers are any good, be a pretty good presentation platform in a conference room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But quickly bring something up and show somebody a rotating knee bone or whatever they were saying.
Small group. Well, yeah, medical is another big. I mean, you're going to see doctors carrying these things around like crazy.
All right, to finish up this conversation, Adam, it sounds like you're getting almost everything that was announced. What compelled you today? What is the stuff that you're excited about getting your hands on?
Definitely the iPad Pro. I've been waiting for a new Apple TV for a while. I'm the guy that lives in the Apple ecosystem, so I have everything I bought on iTunes. It just makes sense for me. I've looked at the other set-top box products, but because I'm so invested in this ecosystem, it's just where I'm going to be. So when Apple comes out with the new Apple TV, it just makes sense for me to go there because all my content's there already. So yeah, the iPad Pro is probably the biggest thing I'm surprised about. I knew I was going to get the new iPhone. A lot of it, in terms of getting the iPhone, is just so I can review it and talk about it. I like getting a new iPhone. I'm not going to deny that. So it's great to have an excuse to do it. But really on the iPhone side, I think the biggest thing I'm excited about is maybe the new camera. Oh, I meant to mention earlier, if you're into selfies and doing FaceTime videos, the front-facing camera going to 5 megapixel, that's a big update from 1.2, which is what they had. So if you're into that sort of thing, I'm not, but, those are nice upgrades. So looking forward to that, but mostly, the iPad Pro. I'm not looking forward to spending the money on it, but I'm going all in. I'll get the pencil, and I'll get the keyboard, and I'll get the iPad Pro. I'm not going to get the cellular one, though, because I'm perfectly fine with tethering. That works great.
Same here. I never get a tablet with cellular, Android or iOS, either one. Scott, what were you excited by?
Well, I'm very much looking forward to the Pro, as I probably already made clear. Just as an artist, I think that thing looks awesome. The TV thing is interesting. I feel like there's been such a long period of time between when the Apple TV debuted as a hobbyist device and now. And you look at that interface and its responsiveness and everything as it stands today, it is kind of archaic compared to the other set-top boxes. Good apps, good support, good content, but UI is very slow. It's clunky. It just has outlived its stay. So to see something fresh, new, fast, and snappy is very interesting to me. Although how many housewives, not housewives, just wives in general, sitting around on a couch with their husbands are going to love the idea of right in the middle of Vampire Diaries, the guy talks to his remote and says, "Tell me how the Phillies did last night in the game."
Yeah.
Or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Well,
How many times is Veronica Belmont going to be over at your house, Scott, while you're watching Game of Thrones and say, "How are the Giants doing?" I mean, that can happen
yes.
too.
Well, and
In theory, yes.
I'm worried because it looks like for gaming you need multiple remotes. So what happens when you have 4 remotes around? And
You can
4 people in
use
the family?
your iOS devices as a controller.
Which is
They
cool.
kind of glossed past that.
Yeah.
No, I get that too, but I'm just saying. So say you go all in and you're like, I want to have the the remotes with the gyroscopes and stuff like that, and so everybody's got a remote. Which one takes precedence when someone wants to watch something? Does everybody
right.
in the family grab a remote? What kind of fights are we going to have there?
You have real
Prime, remote Prime.
They have real opportunities with things like the Jackbox collection, currently all the rage on PS4, Xbox, and PC. Those use wireless devices of any kind with a touchscreen as controllers. So you can have like 8 people in the living room playing on a PlayStation. Absolutely fun and exciting, and I just got to thinking, well, man, imagine the kinds of game experiences the Apple TV could provide to all these iPhone, iPod Touch, iPad users in the house who all want to participate in the thing. There are real opportunities for the casual gaming market here that I think got glossed over a bit too. I know they focused on gaming and showed some stuff, but I think it's a bigger deal than people think. And I think
Jury's out, man. I've heard that story a million times by Google and Amazon and Android, and I said Google and Android twice, but I just
It's going to come down to apps and developers, like a lot of this stuff. That's, as I was saying earlier with my Apple Watch. Really, when developers get their hands on it and get creative and figure out the experiences and the things to do with it, that's what's going to sell it. So
that's where
Apple
all of it is. It's not just a matter of that. That is absolutely everything that makes this work. So all I'm saying is they already have a track record of pulling that off in the mobile space where nobody thought it could be done. Nobody thought they were going to unseat Nintendo in terms of adding all these handsets, and now with Google in the picture, you got many, many more handsets out there. And you have Nintendo themselves making mobile games in-house for these devices next year.
Well, they're actually contracting another company to make it with their IP.
Oh, yeah, sure. But still, it's still a huge deal, and I think that just leads to more stuff. But my point is, if they can do it there, if anyone has the money, wherewithal, experience, and the existing base to do it, they do. So I'm not saying they will, and I'm not sure I'd bet $1 million on it. But they have the best chance as compared to these other little stabs that others have been making. That's all I'm saying.
To finish up, I will probably, I don't know, I will get the Apple TV. I feel like I must for the Cord Killer show. And I also want to. It's interesting. I would like to try it out. I was in the market for an iPad, and I'm really disappointed they didn't have an upgraded 10-inch, because I'm not sure I need a 13-inch tablet, but I'll probably end up getting one of those. And I don't think I'll get the iPhone or a watch, either one.
Yeah, I skipped the iPad Air 3, so I'm just going to make this be it since there isn't an iPad Air 3.
I'm on the iPad 3rd generation, like the one that came after the iPad 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was only around for 7 months before they upgraded it. Yeah,
But
I'm still on
that's a testament to the iPad. That's another thing that I love about these things is Apple, you can still run the latest operating system. You can get the updates. They're not obsoleted. So
yeah. All right, real quickly, our pick of the day comes from Mark, and his pick, for those of you who've had a little too much Apple, is a combination of Google Music and Amazon Prime Music. He says, we often talk about Apple Music, Spotify, Rdio, but not a lot about Amazon Prime. It's the part of Amazon Prime I use the most at work. It does not have the latest hits, but if you have a little gray box in your, a little gray in your beard like me, they have a great back catalog with a lot of good playlists. The biggest thing lacking is radio stations, but Google has great instant mixes and radio stations based upon a single track. It's a great way to save $120 a year, which you will pay for Prime. That's a good pick. A little combination there, and I actually use that same combination. I rely on Google Music for my stored and purchased music, but I have Amazon Prime, so I can use that, although I don't find myself compelled to use it. I guess it depends on your music taste.
Yeah.
Send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Adam Christensen, thank you so much. It was great having you along to get your perspective, man. Folks, if you haven't checked out MacCast, you're missing out. Go find it. Maccast.com, MACCAST.com. Anything else to let folks know about, Adam?
No, another new thing for MacCast is it is on Spotify. Spotify has podcasts now, so you can go find it over there, and a lot of people don't know that, so I'll just point that out. And then I guess I should also plug the iOS show. If you're more into the iOS side of things, I am on a show called The iOS Show at theiOSshow.com. and you can check that out as well.
Scott Johnson, as always, frogpants.com to find his many, many awesome shows. What's going on these days?
Well, first of all, Adam's Mattcast was the second podcast I ever subscribed to an RSS feed ever. So congratulations. You uncovered.
Thank you.
And it's nice to still be buddies with the two guys I first heard on an official
Well,
podcast.
the show I subscribed to of yours is no longer exists. So
I know.
it was one of my first podcast subscriptions.
Well, there you go.
TLR forever.
Yes, ELR forever indeed. Yeah, there's a lot going on, a million things. Right now we're just trying to get this book out for Kickstarter supporters of the MyExtraLife.com book, so you can follow progress on that and everything else I'm doing at frogpants.com or alternately on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
Thank you, everybody who supports the show and makes it possible. We are going to be doing our analyst call. If you are supporting at the analyst level at patreon.com/acedetect, you'll have a chance to call in and ask us a question during the call. But keep an eye on the Patreon for more information about when that call is. And thank you for supporting the show. If you can support it in any way, even if it's by buying a T-shirt that says "My wife works at YouTube," which is a T-shirt that now exists in our store, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. Listen to the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Speaking of Ewan Rankin, Adam Christensen, Ewan will be on the show tomorrow from the British Tech Network. We'll talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nice.
Well done.
Awesome.
Good show, you guys. Thank you.
That was great. Not too
I have a name in there, but Punch the Monkey is winning our Showbot.tv survey.
Yep.
Of course it is.
So maybe I'll change that.
What was your name?
Apple sees the world through rose gold glasses. Or seeing the Apple announcement through rose gold glasses or something like that.
Not bad.
That was just temporary. Punch the Monkey, Apple.
Punch the monkey.
I'll get Apple in there somehow.
Punch the apple monkey.
Woo! So, Adam, as always,
Yeah.
we just stay streaming while I edit, but don't feel like you have to stay around if you got to go. Go do your thing.
No, I mean, this is my thing today.
Okay.
Kinda.
Yeah, we can keep chatting, too.
I
if you
probably
want.
need to go crawl someplace in a little ball and just
Yeah, believe me, me too.
vegetate at this point.
So are you? So I mean, I want. Adam was gonna say I want the Pro, but I don't think I need the space of the. I don't need the 128 gig. What is it? 32.
I always get. You know what? The few times that
Yeah.
I've ever followed that impulse you're having right now, I've regretted it. So I always max out the space.
Should
I agree with Tom.
probably max it out. But then you guys are
Can't
right.
add more later.
It's so expensive.
I know.
You're in not only notebook territory, but expensive
I'll
notebook.
point to my quote. My kids aren't getting Christmas this year. It'll be very light.
We got one daughter out of the house. Another one's pretty close. You don't have to buy them a lot of presents, right?
Me? No.
No, I'm talking to Scott.
No. Yeah, you don't have kids out of the house yet, do you? You're all
Scott, make them their presents. It'll mean so much more and save you so much money.
I'll draw it on my iPad Pro.
On your hats, right? There you go.
I mean, it's funny. I have such a singular need for it. It's
And make
just
Carter help you and then give her your present.
Definitely, I would say make sure you go into the store and try it first, Scott, because I'm really worried that the stylus is not going to be as good and responsive. It hardly ever is. You know, they do those videos, and it's like, oh.
I mean, I give Apple some credit. They are some of the most, like stage presentations and stuff, they do try to be real, right? There's a temptation to be so perfect that you don't screw anything up, so you fake it or whatever, and then you find out later, oh, that was running on a different computer, or that was like pre-recorded or whatever. Apple's been pretty good about saying, here's real-world use on stage. But with the pen, you're right. It's this beautifully filmed sort of commercial type thing that looks very hard to sort of verify. And
Right.
it's
Well,
CGI pressure sensitivity with actual drawing, and I don't know. I can't
go
tell.
back and watch the demos, especially like the first demo that the Microsoft guys did. It didn't seem to, and when we were watching the live thing with the British Tech Network guys, they pointed this out. It didn't seem to be quite as good as what was shown in the video.
Yeah.
Like you can notice, and now again, it's probably an early stage. It's not a finished product, but
Should be close if it's November.
True.
Yeah. So I don't know.
They could be tweaking software and firmware and stuff like that.
If
Still,
I wanted this just for iPad reasons, like just your normal iPad reasons, then I don't know if I even care.
Yeah. See, I have the added benefit of I can get it and I have it just to talk about the stuff. So I'll get the accessories just so I can review and have a first-hand knowledge of them. But I don't know if they're going to work as well as what was shown.
Yeah.
I hope so, because it'll be amazing.
Yeah, me too.
How about a shout out to the Crossy Road folks who were very obviously not doing a pre-recorded demo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that I'm glad they brought them out just because they had this great indie hit. But all those presentations are always rough, and E3 is just as bad. They're all bad. Nobody makes.
Have you played their Pac-Man thing?
I have.
Pac-Man 265.
Yeah, 256 is good. I mean, it scratches your endless Pac-Man itch if you have one, for sure.
Yeah, this announcement. I was watching The Verge. By the way, The Verge had the Recode people on their live blog. They were like crossing over because they're all part of the same company now. And it was pretty awesome to see Lauren Good, Nilay Patel, Casey Newton, Walt Mossberg, all like chatting with each other, giving each other a hard time. And Walt had some zingers in there. And one of them was like, this could all be on a press release, like to certain parts of the announcement, right?
Oh, we didn't even bring that up in the show. They had great pacing at the front of the thing. Like, it seemed like they were moving really nicely through everything, and then they got to iPhone, and for me, the whole thing just crashed. It was just like they were dragging on about the
anytime they bring out developers, I get it. I get they're trying to give us context and understand how it works, but it just slows to a grinding halt.
Yeah, they could have been done in an hour and a half, and maybe even shorter if they just trimmed up some of the.
Well, he came he goes, we have so much to talk about, and there's no time for numbers, so let's just get straight to it. And I'm like, oh, well,
but he did this last time too. He put the numbers into the presentation. It's a scam. Don't believe him.
But I don't know. Am I wrong? Is it supposed to be for us, for analysts? Like, who really cares about the sub-pixel blah blah blah? Like, can I just read that in the tech thing on Apple's website? Does that need to be?
That was always Steve Jobs' position. It felt like that's what I heard. Is that he's like, don't do specs. Nobody cares. They can read those later.
Yeah. So they've gotten really into those, whole Ive thing. I don't need to know about the materials and. Now
I have to say, I was seeing people in various outlets saying, "Ooh, this is the part I really like." So they obviously know that there are people who are spec nerds who get fun out of that.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I can think of is like the really technical tech blogs. Non-tech is like salivating over that stuff or whatever.
I like hearing Phil Schiller get excited about stuff. It doesn't, But
does he even really know what it means?
Yeah, there's your question.
You get a sense he actually really understands it, or just. And it's funny because then he always summarizes up. He goes into the deep details and is like, "Yeah, the pictures will be richer and sharper."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you have to if you're doing that because you're doing it for USA Today as much as you are for Anandtech, so you got to give them a quote at the same time.
Exactly.
Hey, Jamie.
Hello. Yes.
If we needed a second guest chair on tomorrow's Current Geek, are you willing to come on?
Yeah. Is Current Geek on tomorrow?
No, I'm sorry, Friday is what I meant.
Okay. Yes, I am.
The reason I ask is because we were having who are we having on? I gotta remind myself now. Crap. I just got it all confirmed, so that's why, Tom, you haven't heard from me yet, but you will today.
Yeah, I'm on pins and needles here.
Andy Beach is coming on.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, you like Andy.
Yeah.
And he is awesome, but I don't know, for whatever reason, we've had him on other things before, for whatever reason, you just sound like a great ad for that.
All right.
So if you're willing,
if you compliment me, I will show up. And you have done so, and therefore I will show up.
All right. Good deal then.
Who else we should have on Current Geek? And I don't think we've had him yet. Is Derek Colanduno, who does the tracks at DragonCon.
Oh, right. Used to the Skepticality guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of ELR, he was a guest on there a whole bunch of times back in the day. We should totally have him on. Yeah. Why not? Are him and Swoopy still working together, or are they sort of separate?
No. Well, they're working together on some things. At DragonCon, they're on a bunch. They're kind of split up now. I think she's still helping out with the Skeptic track.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. He's great. I like him a lot.
We should have
Health-wise,
Swoopy on
he's
too.
okay, right? He's doing good.
Yeah, he's stable now. He's doing good. He's recovered. He's back to being Derek.
That's cool. I like him a lot.
It's been years, I think, though, since he had the stroke.
Yeah, that was, in fact, it was the year, it was 06.
Yeah.
It was the year that Steve Jobs got up and did his announcement that there would be iTunes supported directly podcasts, so podcasts in iTunes. That was
right.
And it was the day when he got up and showed all these podcast album arts. One of them was Skepticality, and they were there, I think, for that particular WWE
cool.
or whatever. And then later we're at dinners when the stroke happened.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that same night.
Awesome weekend, terrible weekend.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to say, he is an impressive man with all that he does at DragonCon. And knowing, he explained to me how he had to reroute his brain, essentially.
Yeah, he's super interesting.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We'll get him
I
on.
got to get out there. That's got to be put on my schedule for.
Yeah, you should.
Year.
You get nominated for the Parsecs pretty regularly. You might as well.
Oh, I do. Didn't even know that.
I remember Buzz Out Loud got nominated a couple times for the Parsecs, which, I mean, they have a news category, but I'm like, it's not really. The Parsecs are for science fiction and fantasy podcasts, and
Yeah.
but hey, why not? No, I've seen Mattcast up there on that news, being nominated for the news category before too.
Yeah, awesome.
Adam's always the hotness.
Incomparable.
I like Roger's Still Life with Baby right now.
I've been sitting there watching this whole time. He's got a cute baby. How can you not?
We're the only tech news show with a cute baby.
Whenever you say only, but we're definitely the tech show with the cutest baby.
The cutest baby. You're right.
For sure.
All right, I probably should drop off. I have not eaten. I'm going to go eat something and play some Hearthstone.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fine idea. Adam, thank you again, man. It was awesome.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks
You're
for the
welcome.
invite.
Hey,
All
Jay.
right,
See you, Adam. Have a good one, dude.
yeah, later. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Go
Bye.
watch Mattcast, everybody.
Yay.
Tonight is 8:30 still, Jenny?
8:30.
All right. I'm all in.
The one sad piece of news that breaks my heart is that Matt Flanagan will be elsewhere tonight.
Oh.
So it's going to be my first Tell It Anyway without Matt Flanagan behind the scenes. So I'm going to do my best.
We'll make it work.
My best. But I'm really excited about the topic.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm jazzed.
What's the topic? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's well the topic is this real life ? But it was a very carefully crafted topic to allow me to tell a story about the West Wing.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So that's my
And when you worked for the president, Martin Sheen?
Yes, I was on the Santos campaign and I covered Iowa.
Dude, I love that show like beyond almost anything in the world.
That's why I asked you to be on this particular week.
Yeah.
Because I sensed that you would really like this story.
I love that show.
So there you go.
All right. Well, excellent. And Tom, I think tomorrow's at 4 your time?
Is that right?
The quarterly call?
Is it 5?
5, I thought.
Yeah.
5 your time, so 6 my time.
6
Okay.
your time.
I just got to get it straight and make sure I'm there.
Cool.
I have Current Geek, Current Geek. I have TMS PM, but that'll be over by then, so that'll be good.
Oh, good. Awesome. So you, maybe Darren, and I haven't heard from Len.
Len Peralta,
But I'm guessing that means he won't.
maybe. He was patient 0, I heard.
But it'll be me and Jenny, too. So.
Yeah, no, I'll be there. Should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Patience here.
It's too good.
Oh my gosh, where is the room with the air conditioning and why am I not in it? Woo!
I'm getting you there. I promise.
It is so hot.
What's hot to you? Tell me how hot it is.
Let's see what it is right now. Hold on. I think it's in 95.
Oh, that is hot.
Yeah.
That's plenty hot.
97. I'm sorry, it's 97
I was
degrees.
going to give you a hard time, but that's plenty warm.
Yeah. So,
People in Arizona are laughing at us, but that's fine.
no, that's true. But we're laughing at them because they're in Arizona in the summer.
Yeah, they live in a place where man was not meant to be.
Not meant to be.
Nope.
But aren't you near a giant salt lake? Isn't that kind of counterproductive to life as well?
I'm not really.
Roger's back.
I'm not near it, but we needed something for the opening of what's Knight Rider. That was all filmed on the Salt Flats, so you know it's all right.
Nice.
What I liked is they got someone with the same hairstyle as Hasselhoff
Yeah.
to drive the car, so that you get the silhouette. Because even when you silhouette David Hasselhoff, he has a very distinctive hairdo.
Yeah. That's true.
I used to think it was just done up for the show, and then I watched Baywatch, and I said it's the same hair.
All right, we are published.
All
I am
right.
out of the post.
Woohoo!
I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And goodbye, Alpha Geek Radio.
Leeching into your system. Stop it.